Myself M. Gunakar, Assistant Professor of Zoology, Government Degree College, Siddipet. Today, let us discuss the topic Evolutionary Significance of Coelom in Annelids. So, before going into the actual topic, let us have a look at the Animalia kingdom classification. Animalia, otherwise called as Metazoa. Metazoa in the sense here only multicellular animals. In the Animalia, multicellular animals, we have not taking into consideration here protozoa because protozoans are included under Protista. Now here the metazoans, that is multicellular animals only, are included here. All the multicellular animals, that is Animalia or Metazoa, is divided into, are classified into two subkingdoms. One is Parazoa, the other is Eumetazoa. Parazoa means here the Porifera. That means in the Parazoa subkingdom, phylum Porifera is included, and in which sponges are placed, all the sponges. Then Eumetazoa, that means Eu means true, truly multicellular animals. As these Parazoa are not truly multicellular animals, these metazoans are another group of metazoans, that is true multicellular animals, are separated from the parazoans. So Eumetazoa includes only true multicellular animals, and this Eumetazoa again classified into two groups, so two grades I can say. So here these two grades based on the symmetry of this multicellular animal. One is, some of Eumetazoans are radially symmetrical animals and the others are bilaterally symmetrical animals. So based on the symmetry, the Eumetazoans are classified as radiata and bilateria. Then these radiata are radially symmetrical animals, otherwise called as Diploblastica. Diploblastica means it is endoderm. Two embryonic layers or two germinal layers are formed in the embryonic stage. That's why they are called Diploblastica. Whereas in bilateria or bilaterally symmetrical animals, they are otherwise called as Triploblastica, whose germinal layers are 3 in number. In addition to the ectoderm and endoderm, there is a mesoderm is also found as a third embryonic layer or germ layer. Now, in radially symmetrical animals or radiata or Diploblastica, Cnidarians and some other minor phyla, which is called Ctenophora, is included under radiata or Diploblastica. Whereas in the bilateria or Triploblastica, all animals from Platyhelminthes to the Chordata are included under in this group. Now, as this is a big group, as the bilateria or Triploblastica is a very big group, again this grade is divided based on certain aspects of embryonic development. So that aspect of embryonic development is nothing but the fate of blastopore. Based on the fate of the blastopore, bilaterally symmetrical animals or triploblastic animals are divided into two divisions. One is protostomia, the other is deuterostomia. Protostomia and deuterostomia. In protostome animals, the blastopore develops into mouth and later on anus is formed. Whereas in deuterostomes, blastopore develops into anus, then later on mouth is formed. So again, these protostomes, again, as this is also a bigger group or it includes all many animals, again these protostomia are again divided into three groups based on the coelom, based on the condition of the coelom or presence or absence of the coelom. So based on the coelom, the protostomes are divided into three types. One is Acoelomata, Pseudocoelomata and Schizocoelomata. Acoelomata, in which included platyhelminths, and that means all flatworms are included under Acoelomata. Whereas in Pseudocoelomata, nematodes, that means roundworms and other some certain minor phyla like the Rotifera, Morpha, all these are included under pseudocoelomata. And whereas the other third division, the third subdivision is called Schizocoelomata, in which annelids, arthropods and mollusks are included. So this Schizocoelomata is somewhat bigger group. Now then coming to the next subdivision, next division, which is Deuterostomia. Deuterostomia. I already explained what is Deuterostomia. Deuterostomia are the group of animals in whose embryological development the blastopore develops into anus. Blastopore develops into anus. Later on, the mouth is formed. So here in this division, there is only one subdivision called as Enterocoelomata. Enterocoelomata. Here there are Acoelomata, Pseudocoelomata and Schizocoelomata were present in the Protostomia, whereas in the Deuterostomia only one subdivision, that is called Enterocoelomata, is present. In this subdivision, the phylums Echinodermata, Hemichordata and Chordata are included under the subdivision Enterocoelomata. Aspects of the coelom. Now, the term coelom is suggested for the first time by Ernest Haeckel. He was a great scientist of biology. Then the term coelom is derived from a Greek word koiloma, which means a cavity. Coelom is nothing but a cavity. We know that. So it is the word which is derived from a Greek word koiloma. Let us try to define the coelom. Coelom is nothing but it is a fluid filled space between a body wall and visceral organs. You know the body wall. It is a fluid filled space between body wall and visceral organs. What are the visceral organs? All the internal organs are called. All the organs that are present inside the body visceral are called as visceral organs. So there is a fluid filled space between the body wall and all internal organs, all visceral organs, and which is lined by an epithelial layer which is called as peritoneum, and this peritoneum is nothing but it is derived from the third germ layer called mesoderm. Now let us try to define again. Once again, coelom. Coelom is nothing but it's a fluid filled space between the body wall and the all internal organs or visceral organs, which is lined by mesodermal peritoneum or mesodermal epithelium, which is called as peritoneum. Then what is the advantage of the coelom? Main advantage of the coelom is nothing but evolution of efficient organ systems was not possible until the evolution of coelom. If the coelom is not formed, the organ systems were not evolved. If the organ systems were not evolved, the animals, this much of animals development or evolution would not have been evolved. So that's why, first of all, in the first line of evolution, the coelom, the production or the evolution of coelom or formation of a coelom is the great leap, I can say, a great leap in the animal kingdom. And just now we have seen in the before slide that triploblastic animals are 3 categories based on the coelom. Just now, that means protostomia, acoelomates, pseudocoelomates and eucoelomates. That is, here we are combining the schizocoelomates and the enterocoelomates into eucoelomates. Eu means true. So schizocoelomates and enterocoelomates both are the true coelomates. Now we are combining here in this slide as eucoelomates. Don't become confused that these eucoelomates are another type. These are nothing but is a combined word which signifies the schizocoelomates as well as enterocoelomates, whereas schizocoelomates comes under protostomes and enterocoelomates comes under deuterostomes. That difference we need to understand. Now coming to the next slide, development of coelom. So how the coelom is formed, let us have a look. Now let us see just now we have seen in the last slide that the triploblastic animals which are included under from platyhelminthes to chordates are classified into three divisions. They are subdivisions: acoelomates, the groups acoelomates, pseudocoelomates and eucoelomates. And these in the acoelomates, platyhelminthes are included. In the pseudocoelomates, nematodes are included, and in the eucoelomates, Annelida to chordata, all the phylums are included. Now we shall have a look into this figure now, which is given here. So the acoelomate animal, in all acoelomate animals, the coelom looks like this acoelomate animals, and in pseudocoelomate animals this is the actual figure, and in coelomate or eucoelomate animals the coelom looks like this. So we need to understand later on. In the next slides we will discuss about these coeloms clearly. Now acoelomates, why we are discussing this means to understand the evolutionary significance of coelom in annelids. This understanding of these things are very much useful. So in the acoelomates, what happened is, see, in the acoelomate, that means body cavity is absent. In the acoelomata, the name itself signifies, A means absent, coelomates means coelom. So coelom is absent, that is body cavity is absent. How this absence or how this coelom in this coelom is absent? Let us see. Mesenchyme or parenchyme occupies the coelomic space. So in between the in the body wall, in between the body wall and internal organs, the mesenchyme tissue or parenchyme tissue, which is also called parenchyme or mesenchyme tissue, which is developed from the mesoderm, occupies the entire coelomic space. And because of this, as there is no body cavity, so this type of body plan is called as solid body plan. This type of body plan is called as solid body plan, and which is present in the platyhelminthes phylum only. So all flatworms are having this type of coelom, that is no coelom, because the space between the body wall and the gut or internal organs is completely filled with mesenchyme tissue. What is the disadvantage? If the coelom is not present, then what happens to these animals? So if the disadvantages, if we understand, so what would be the advantages of the presence of coelom, we can easily understand. So what is the main disadvantage is diffusion of material from the gut to the body wall is slow and less efficient, because the body in the coelom, actually coelomic fluid should be there. Instead of coelomic fluid, there is a connective tissue or compact tissue. A compact tissue is formed. So that's why there is a great barrier. It forms a great barrier for the diffusion of material from the internal organs to the body wall and vice versa occurs. So that's why it is, and this type of body plan is less efficient. Then visceral organs are fixed in the mesenchyme. Whatever the internal organs that are present inside the body are fixed in the mesenchyme, hence they cannot freely move. They cannot move freely. So sometimes movement of internal organs freely is essential, and this is not possible in the case of acoelomates. Then visceral organs are more susceptible to compression and damage also, because as there is a fixed tissue, so if somehow there will be a pressure, so there is no cushion like substance which will be generally present in the coelomates is absent here. That's why the organs or internal organs in these acoelomates are more susceptible to the damage. Then here you can see already phylum Platyhelminthes and phylum Ctenophora, phylum Lamartina, all these are included under AC. So here the endoderm is present here, and the epidermis is here, and between the here circular muscle layer are present below the epidermis. Longitudinal muscle layers are also present, and this makes body wall. Epidermis, circular muscle, and longitudinal muscle makes the body wall. And lumen or gut or on the alimentary canal is surrounded by endodermis only. Between this completely the parenchyma tissue is filled. This total is tissue is parenchyma tissue, which is developed from the mesoderm, and this is the intestine. So anyway, the gonads and other organs, internal organs are fixed in the parenchyma tissue. Now the types of animals based on coelom. This is continuation of the earlier slide. So now the pseudocoelomates are next type. Our next type is pseudocoelomates, which are also called false coelomates. Here where the body cavity or coelom is present, but it is not lined by mesodermal epithelium. If a coelom is said to be true coelom or eucoelom or actual coelom, it should be lined by mesodermal epithelium. But here what happens in the pseudocoelomata, the body cavity is not lined by mesodermal epithelium, and they include the members of nematodes and rotifers and some other minor phyla. During the embryonic development, mesoderm occupies only a part of the blastocele adjoining the ectoderm. Now you can see first, these are the first animals to exhibit the tube within a tube body plan. These are the nematodes are the first animals to exhibit tube within a tube body plan or organization. Now mesoderm occupies only a part of the coelom adjoining the ectoderm. We can look at this here. This is the epidermis, and this is the endodermis. This is the epidermis, this is the endodermis, and here what happens is the mesoderm occupies the mesoderm. It is in the form of some muscle bands. See, it is in the form of a muscle bands here and there, and these muscle bands are occupying only some spaces at some spaces like this here, and the remaining total cavity, that means this is the space between the body wall and the endoderm or alimentary canal or gut wall is filled with a fluid which is called pseudocoelomic fluid. This is the pseudocoelom, and this is filled with the pseudocoelomic fluid. All the other organs are also placed in the pseudocoelomic fluid. So, and gonads and all other organs are included in this pseudocoelomic fluid. So as it is not lined on both sides by the mesodermal derivative peritoneum, that's why this is not the, though coelom is present, it is not the true coelom. So that's why it is called as pseudocoelom. So what are the advantage and disadvantage? There are not much disadvantages. Though it is called pseudocoelom, the pseudocoelom performs all the activities of the true coelom. How? The mesoderm occupies only a part of the coelom adjoining the ectoderm, just now we have seen, and gut wall covered by only endodermal epithelium, so diffusion of material from gut to pseudocoelomic fluid becomes easy. Just now we have seen here in the gut. So this is the gut, and whatever that means, whatever that is intestinal lumen here, and in the intestinal lumen what are the with the food material is digested, and the nutrients has to be supplied to or can be easily diffused through single layer of endoderm. This is single layer of endoderm, and through the single layer of endoderm, then all the substances, all the material can be diffused to and fro, and then easily they can pass through. So now, and because of this, as in these pseudocoelomates, circulatory system is absent. So absence of circulatory system is compensated due to the easy passage of the material to and fro, and then visceral organs can also be freely moved, because this is not a fixed tissue or connective tissue, as it is a fluid. So it is the fluid also acts as a hydrostatic skeleton also, and helps in the animals to some extent in the locomotion. And Best example for the pseudocoelomates is phylum Nematoda, Rotifera, Chinorhyncha, Nematomorpha, and Entoprocta, etc. All these are except Nematoda, all others are minor phyla. Now coming to the eucoelomates, third type of animals. Eucoelomates are true coelomates. Here the coelom is lined by mesodermal epithelium, which is called as peritoneum, and the coelom is filled with the coelomic fluid. And what happens here, how it is formed? Coelom formation begins in the, actually it is the embryonic blastocele replaced by true coelom derived from mesoderm. So here hence true coelom also called secondary body cavity. Here gut wall becomes thick and muscular. Diffusion of material is not easy. Here gut wall becomes thick and muscular because the surrounding the gut wall, again there is a mesodermal peritoneum is present. That's why it becomes much thicker when compared to the pseudocoelomates. Hence blood vascular system, because of the, as the diffusion of material is not easy, here for the easy passage of the material and other things, there is a blood vascular system is developed in this true coelomates. And the visceral organs which are suspended by peritoneum and here, they move freely in the coelomic fluid. They can be move freely in the coelomic fluid. So these are all advantages of the coelomates. Coelomic fluid serves as an hydrostatic skeleton like that of the pseudocoelomates, and mesoderm in contact with the endoderm of the gut causes regional specialization of the gut also. So development of such organs like the stomach, gizzard, all these organs develop from the alimentary canal. So this type of regional development is regional specialization of certain organs is called as primary induction. And in this primary induction of regional specialization of organs can be possible only in the case of true coelomates like annelids to chordata. So in the true coelomates, all phylums Annelida to chordata are included here. Now, how in these eucoelomates, there are again, we have seen in the first slide the classification of Animalia, where protostomes, here the schizocoelomates are there. In the deuterostomes, one subdivision is there in the eucoelomata. So these, though eucoelomates are again divided into two types, schizocoelomates and enterocoelomates. This division is based on how in both the animals true coelom is present, but how this true coelom is developed. So based on that, these are two types. One is schizocoelomates. Let us discuss schizocoelomates. Schizocoelous development of coelom. So in protostomes, the coelom forms by a process called schizocele. So this process is called as schizocele. That means in schizocoelomates, how the coelom is formed is called as schizocele. How it is formed? Let us see. The archenteron initially forms and the mesoderm splits into two layers. First of all, archenteron is formed. So archenteron is formed, and then mesoderm splits into two types. Annelids, arthropods and mollusks are included under the schizocoelomata, and all these schizocoelomates are protostomians, and they show holoblastic spiral and determinate cleavage. So what happens here is, in this 4D blastomere, otherwise called as mesentoblast cell of the early embryo, divides to form mesodermal blocks between the ectoderm and the endoderm, and it replaces the blastocele. Then it splits longitudinally. So here you can see the figure also. So this is the mesodermal. So here actually, here this is the mesentoblast cell, 4D blastomere or mesentoblast cell. It divides more rapidly than the other cells. So there is a more number of cells are formed, and these cells are occupying the mid space between here in this. So this is the outer layer or ectoderm, and this is the endoderm. And mesentoblast cells which are present at the junction of these two layers is formed, and then this mesentoblast cell or 4D blastomere develops or divides more rapidly than the other cells. So more number of cells are formed like this here in this way. So they occupies, and then these are called the mesodermal blocks, and these mesodermal blocks individually they divide longitudinally. Mesodermal, this here you can see mesoderm is splitting. Here you can see mesoderm splits like this. Here mesoderm splits longitudinally. So if this mesoderm splits longitudinally, and this into two layers. So outer mesodermal layer is called as the somatic or parietal layer, and the inner layer which surrounds the endoderm or alimentary canal is called splanchnic or visceral layer. And this between the, so this layer moves upwards and forms an inner lining of the ectoderm or epidermis ectoderm, and this layer that is forming the covers the inner layer or endoderm. In between these two there is a space, so new space is created. That space is called as the coelom, actual coelom, and that coelom is filled with the coelomic fluid. So by splitting up the mesoderm, or by splitting up the mesoderm, the coelom is formed. That's why it is called as the schizocoelous coelom, and the process is called schizocele. Now coming to the next one, enterocoelomates. How the enterocoelomates and the process of this enterocoelom in enterocoelomates is called as enterocele. So how these enterocoelomates, how it is formed? Animals in which the body cavity is formed from the mesodermal pouches of Archenteron. Here this enterocoelom is formed from the mesodermal pouches of Archenteron. So that's why here these are called enterocoelomates, because that is developing from the enteron or Archenteron. That's why they are called enterocoelomates. And echinoderms and hemichordates and chordates are included under these enterocoelomates. In these animals, mesodermal pouches that evaginate from the wall of the Archenteron into the blastocele are fused with the one another to form the enterocoelomate. Let us examine this figure so you can easily understood. So what happens? Some of the pouches are coming out here. You can see. So these are some pouches, and these pouches after they come out split up, and then they join together. And forming a coelom. So not only these two pouches, but many pouches are coming from the mesoderm, that is Archenteron splits. From the Archenteron splits, mesodermal pouches comes, and all these mesodermal pouches they unite to form a coelom or body cavity. That's why it is called as the enterocoelom. So all the deuterostomes comes under this enterocoelom, and that means in the deuterostomes the enterocoelom type of coelom is present, and they undergo radial and indeterminate cleavage, and all the echinoderms, hemichordates and chordates are placed under this group. Let us discuss the significance of coelom. That means after the advantages of coelom. So coelom allows the visceral organs a space to develop independently of the body wall, giving more physiological and evolutionary flexibility. So this is, otherwise all the organs are fixed and there is no movement, there is no free movement, and there is no growth for space for the growth. But here this coelom allows the visceral organs a clear space to develop independently of the body wall and giving more physiological and evolutionary flexibility. Then this coelomic fluid also cushions and protects the visceral organs from the external shocks. It facilitates smooth transportation of materials also between the different parts of the body, and it allows the passage of excretory waste and gametes. Excretory waste, that means nitrogenous wastes, are collected into the coelom, and then there is a passage, that means nephridia, wherever the excretory organs, and not only the nephridia, other parts, other organs are also present, and then these excretory wastes are eliminated from coelom through certain pores or apertures, etc. And gametes are also, there is a outlet from the for the gametes from the coelom also. Then this coelomic fluid acts as a hydrostatic skeleton, and helps in locomotion in some animals, especially the worm-like animals like annelids and some of the arthropods. The coelomic fluid makes a hydrostatic skeleton and helps in the locomotion. Now, how? Let us try to discuss the origin of the coelom. So there are, in how the coelom is evolved, because so far we have seen different types of coeloms in different animals, but how this coelom is originated. Evolution of coelom played a great role in evolution of animal kingdom. Just now we have seen, and modes of evolution of coelom are uncertain. So far, though we have completely understood what is coelom and what are the advantages of the coelom, so what are the functions of the coelom, if the coelom is not there, what would be the fate of those organs, internal organs, we have clearly understood. But we need to understand how these coelom would have been originated in the animal kingdom. But unfortunately, there is no paleontological evidence to support this, how the coelom is originated. We have not yet clear cut idea so far. So but some theories, based on their embryological study of different organisms, some of the scientists, they put forward or proposed certain theories, among which schizocelic theory, enterocoelic theory, gonocoel theory, and nephrocoel theory are the important. Let us see what these theories are proposals. What are the proposals proposed by these theories? Now, schizocele theory. Schizocele theory was proposed by Clark in 1964, and according to this theory, coelom is evolved by splitting of mesenchyme of ancestral acoelomate-like flatworms. Here, what this schizocele theory states, the coelom is evolved by splitting of mesenchyme of ancestral acoelomate-like flatworms. Some mesenchyme cells form the peritoneum, among which some of the mesenchyme cells, they form the peritoneal layer. And acoelomate body plan is primary and ancestral to the coelomate body plan. Okay, this is okay. But what happens? What are the strengths of this theory and what are the weaknesses of this theory? Let us see. So, strength of the theory is mode of embryonic development of body cavity in annelids and mollusks. That is embryonic development. What the schizocele theory, it is true with the mode of embryonic development of body cavity in annelids and mollusks. But what about the remaining organisms? It denies, this theory denies any role played by gonads or endodermal pouches of lower forms during coelomy formation. So that's why this schizocele theory, though it has some strength, but it is not accepted by all the scientific community. Let us have a look on the next theory, enterocoel theory. This enterocoel theory was put forward by Lankester in 1877, and it is modified by other scientists like Sedgwick in 1884, Hartmann in 1963, and in the same year Ramney also modified to some extent. So what this enterocoel theory tells us? So here the coelom is evolved from the gastric pouches of coelenterate ancestors. Here try to understand clearly. Coelom is evolved from gastric pouches of coelenterate ancestors. Coelenterate ancestors such as anthozoans or scyphozoans. See, anthozoans and scyphozoans are the part of a coelenterates or cnidarians. So whose ancestors? That means the gastric pouches of the ancestors of these anthozoans and scyphozoans, from where these coelom is evolved, according to this enterocoel theory. And other point is acoelomates are secondarily derived from coelomate ancestors by the laws of body cavity. So first the coelomate ancestors are formed, then acoelomates are secondarily derived from the coelomate ancestors. So here what this enterocoel theory states that first coelomates are formed, then afterwards by losing their body cavity acoelomates are formed. So it looks like a reversal of the whatever we evolutionary history we know of the animal kingdom. This enterocoel theory somehow it tells in the reverse order. So what happens? What are the strengths and weaknesses? Let us see. Strengths of the theory: mode of coelom formation from embryonic archenteron, echinoderms and hemichordates and chordates. Okay, it is okay. Mode of coelom formation, what he is telling is okay. But what is the weakness is the coelomate to acoelomate and bilateral to radial symmetry transition during evolution is not acceptable. Just now we have seen after, first of all, actually in the evolutionary theory, in the evolutionary history of the Animalia, first of all acoelomates and bilateral symmetrical animals are formed. Acoelomates are formed first, then coelomates have been developed, and the radially symmetrical animals are first formed, and then bilateral symmetrical animals then developed. So, but here according to the enterocoel theory, reverse is true. So that's why this has made the theory more unacceptable. That's why this theory is also not accepted. So here they have given a figure. Now here you can see enterocoel theory. First of all, formation of gastric pouches in an anthozoon. So these are all gastric pockets. These are all gastric pockets. So all these gastric pockets and then in the anthozoon, then these gastric pouches separate to form coelomic pouches. All these, see these pouches, they separate to form the coel theory. Gonocoel theory was proposed by Gonocoel theory was proposed by Berg in 1885, and it is supported by Mayer, Goodrich and Hatchek. And here in this theory, coelom represents a persistent expanded gonadial cavity. So always this coelom represents a persistent expanded gonadial cavity, and it is formed by the fusion of various gonadial cavities, that is gonocoels, and coelom first arose in its segmented condition. Then they have seen or they have observed in triclad flatworms what is happened there. In triclad flatworms, they have seen gonads alternating with the intestinal branches. Here you can see gonads are alternate with the intestinal branches. So these are small rounded pebble like structures are all gonads, see here, and these are intestinal pouches. So on both sides intestinal pouches are there. So gonads are placed in between the intestinal pouches. So what they are saying, let us see. So here triclad flatworms, gonads alternating with intestinal branches, they have observed. When intestinal branches withdraw, and gonads meet, all these gonads meet, then their walls become septa. So these resemble the coelomic compartments in annelids. So what they have seen, what they have placed here. So in triclad flatworms, what they have observed is gonads are placed between the intestinal pouches, and when the intestinal pouches are withdrawn and all the gonads are combined to form the septa like this. So all these septa united to form the mesodermal blocks, and the mesodermal blocks they form. So outer layer will be moved upwards and inner layer will be moved downwards, then leaving a space in between. So here this how the coelom is formed according to this theory. This is called gonocoelic theory. So coelomic compartment of an annelid formed by expanded gonads. So let us see what are the strengths and what are the weaknesses of this theory. Strengths of the theory are nil. there are no strengths of the theory, but weaknesses. What is the weakness? It does not explain the origin of unsegmented coelom of many phyla. So here only they have observed only flat the certain flatworms, but all of them all of the metazoans, they do not possess this type of structures. So that's why those animals which are unsegmented, they cannot explain. This theory did not say anything about the unsegmented animals. That's why this theory is not acceptable. Nephrocele theory. So this nephrocele theory proposed by Lankester again. So just now we have seen the Lankester proposed the enterocele theory also. So as the enterocele theory is not accepted, so he is tried to propose another theory which is called nephrocele theory in 1874, and where the coelom originated by expansion of protonephridia of acoelomates. So the coelom is evolved. How it is evolved? It is evolved by the expansion of protonephridia of acoelomates. So what are the protonephridia? These are certain excretory organs. These are excretory organs. Let us see. So the strength of the theory, nil, nothing is there, but weakness is there. Weakness of the theory is some coelomate groups such as echinoderms do not have excretory organs. Echinoderms, we can't find any excretory organs. Excretory material will let out by the water vascular system and other systems. So that's why there is no special risk the excretory organs or protonephridia also. So in other animals, in other metazoans, so not only the protonephridia only are not the only excretory organs, other excretory organs are present. So that's why here this theory did not say anything about the other organs of excretory organs. They say only protonephridia. So that's why this theory is also not acceptable. Now coming to the conclusion. So what is the conclusion we come to after having discussed all these theories? So none of the theories satisfactorily explain the origin of coelom in all animals. In the first instance, we have already discussed that there is no paleontological evidence to support the origin of coelom. So we don't know yet, up to this date, that how the coelom is originated. All these theories have failed to explain intermediate stages in the evolution of coelomates. Though they have put forward certain theories how the coelom would have been formed, they have not yet explained the intermediate stages of these coeloms. Then there is a phylogenetic relationship and embryonic development are also not dealt. These theories, no theory dealt, or no theory among these four theories, not even a single theory dealt phylogenetic relationships and embryonic development of all the animal groups. Now we can come to conclusion. This suggests that coelom formation is not homologous in animals. So if it is in homologous, it would have got some intermediate stages also. There is a connectivity, there is a relationship, but here we can't see anything. That's why we can come to a conclusion. Evolution of coelom in animals is polyphyletic. Polyphyletic means it is evolved many times. Like for example, by blastocele in pseudocoelomates, and by splitting of mesoderm in protostomes, that is in annelids, mollusks and the arthropods, and by archenteron, the coelom is formed by archenteron in deuterostomes. So here this is called polyphyletic. So there is no there is no intermediate stages. So that's why, because of this, we can come to a conclusion that the evolution of coelom is not happened in a monophyletic manner, but it is happened in a polyphyletic manner. That means evolved many times. Thank you.